ZBTR TV presents Conversations with Mhambi.
Empowering the future, strengthening democracy, and building a vibrant civic culture among Zambia's youth.
Tune in every third Saturday of the month as I host young, vibrant Zambian guests discussing matters of national interest. Good morning and welcome to Conversations with Mhambi, where Zambia's young voices share ideas that shape our nation's future. I'm your host, Mhambi Musonda.
Happy Saturday, everyone. We are grateful once again to have you. Special episode of ZBTR TV Conversations with Mhambi. I'm very grateful once again for this platform. Thanks again to Pastor Nathan for providing this opportunity. We enjoy coming live to you every Saturday to be able to share and to unlock Zambian narratives. Today is a very special day. Today I have a very special guest. This is someone who I've known for a few months. I was on his platform, and I want him to come on our platform. He is a very dynamic youth advocate in the legal field, the public service field, and the politics field. Mr. Simon C. Mwewa is the president of the Legal Scholars Guild of Zambia, and he is our guest today. Counsel, how are you, Mr. Mwewa?
Well, I'm very much okay. And how are you, Mr. Mwambi?
I'm doing very good. I'm doing very good.
When you are referring to me as counsel, I usually fear because Laz might penalize me because I might be impersonating myself. So if they say counsel, it simply means it's somebody who has been admitted to the bar and they have the exam. So I'm a lawyer, pursuant to the Law Association of Zambia Act, a student of law, a scholar, as well as a graduate with that degree is referred to as a lawyer. Then somebody who is admitted to the bar is referred to as counsel. But we usually use the term, even though it's illegal, but we usually accept it even when somebody calls us. That by faith, we are getting there soon. Yes.
Thank you very much for your correction. I appreciate it. Well, I'm happy to have you here, and I want to get this conversation on the road. Again, I appreciate your time, and I appreciate you being on our platform. So my first question is very basic, is tell us about your journey. What inspired you to pursue a career in the legal field? Public service, really, law is an extension of public service. So tell us your story, and then tell us what inspired you to pursue a career in public service.
Okay, so from the time I was in 6th grade, I always had this aspiration within me of wanting to be a lawyer. But firstly, I used to just, follow the crowd because my friends would say they want to be doctors, they want to be all those kinds of things. And I would also want to be a doctor as well because of them. But from the time I was young, I think my interests have basically been in issues to do with social sciences. And I think my late mother actually played a crucial role in actually preparing my mind for this career path I've taken, because she always used to make sure I was up to date with current affairs and issues of governance. So I realized that my strengths were in social sciences. So in 6th grade, I decided to say this career is there, of course. I want to be a lawyer, and that is how the journey started. But however, the man that actually inspired me or forced me to pursue this career path was actually my father, because, he was a person who did not really have the necessary etiquette with regards to matters of, land issues and the like, things that used to do with his business. So most of the time he would be cheated by people that actually had that knowledge. And at the end, I think it got very worse to the extent that he would always end up being the person that would be in trouble after the entire issue to do with transactions would come, even when things usually were his own. most of the time he would find himself in problems. So I told myself, I think I need to be a lawyer so that I should understand how to deal or handle with such issues. The rest, I leave it for my biography, which I intend to write so that the people will get to know, to get to know better what really had transpired in my walk of life as a young person, and actually what inspired me to be a lawyer. So he is the reason why I actually told myself I need to pursue this career in my life.
Thank you very much for sharing that story. I remember your Facebook post about your mother and how she had an impact upon your life.
Exactly. Or perhaps should I proceed to how I also got admitted into law school?
Sure, let's do that.
Okay. So yes, and in ninth grade, of course, eighth grade, I always wanted to be a lawyer. So initially, even when I would see legal issues on television, I would be very much interested to know about it. And I was seen through by two lawyers in my education. My aunt, my late aunt, was a lawyer by profession. She was working for the Ministry of Justice as she became Deputy Commissioner for Law Revision. So she had drafted quite a number of constitutions and seen through those processes because of her job. And also my uncle, who had also saw me through my education, was also a lawyer by profession as well. He did it at the University of Zambia, but was not admitted to the bar. So most of the time, whenever I would see my aunt seated at home on a Saturday or Sabbath, I would always find her watching CNN, Al Jazeera, and I would find that working with complex documents, of course, and would have a conversation around that, because papers were also things that never used to miss in that household. I would read through the papers and we would discuss issues to deal with the Constitution. And I think that is where I drew my interests further in trying to pursue this career path. So they had contributed as well. In ninth grade, I was actually suspended from school because I used to have interest in discussing issues of governance. And until my father went to speak to the guidance office, and that was how I was allowed to return. But however, the process or the race, of course, or that was actually the beginning of a very long journey, and the journey, of course, after I was ousted, I think I became worse, because even when I went to secondary school, I was a Kablonga boy. I decided to venture into student politics. I became Students' Council representative, elected. I became a prefect in my final year. I contested the position of Students' Council chairperson. And I was a member of the debate club and became president eventually. So I have quite a track record in leadership, just stemming from there. Then later, when I had completed my education, of course, I had cleared and I had been at home for some time. So I had to figure out what I would do with my life, because I never wanted to put to sleep my talents in public speaking, as well as the knowledge I had obtained, of course, from quite a number of things that I had learned throughout the years. So I decided to become a youth advocate or activist partially. And I remember going to ZNBC, going to release a statement. And when I had arrived there, I actually met a former minister who passed on 10 days after I met him. And we had a very fruitful conversation together. And I asked him a question. I was like, how does it feel to be a minister? I met Honorable Mwansabino Kapea by then. He was Minister of Information in the PF administration. And he responded and told me it's not really an easy thing. But I said, how can you say it's not easy if you get to move with a flag and everything like that? He said, take a seat. And he moved closer to me and he told me words that I'll never forget. He said, when you are a minister for all Zambians, regardless. And he told me how cadres would follow him and say, take land from the MMD and give it to us. And he said, unless there is a country that is called PF, then I would do that. And they went to the president, by then President Sata, and he would respond and say, unless that person is not doing the right thing, then I'll sack him. That is a good minister, actually. And, we had discussions further. I asked him how a young person would lead as a minister, a full cabinet minister. One day he said, no, it's not possible. I'm talking about people in their early 20s. And he said, no. He said, they are there. So I jokingly said myself, and he laughed and said, oh, okay. So I walked him to his vehicle on that particular day. And I didn't know that that was my last time ever hearing from him or seeing him. And that is how I heard that he had passed away 10 days later, unfortunately. So activism continued. I continued to use my platforms then to share solutions to Bilimu, hikes, and decentralization strategies, of course. And from there, then an opportunity came to enroll into the School of Law. Well, it was my vision or my dream to always do law at the University of Zambia or prestigious Cavendish. But due to circumstances beyond my control, well, I think it was the will of God, I found myself at the Lusaka Goldsmiths University, and that is where my journey in studying law began. So I was the first founding president of the Law Association as well as the Student Union. And actually, I made sure that I led base. We were very much successful. We won a competition on judicial reforms. I was the best orator. We also were recognized by the Law Association of Zambia as the best upcoming institution of law at first attempt, and I was late counsel. So I think that is how I joined this fraternity, and I intend to pursue further, not to just end in being a law student, but to also proceed even with other things that things may get better. So that's my law journey. Yes.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I like how you ended that with other things. So we'll get to that at the end because I remember you posted something on Facebook. You talked about your mother, your father being influences. I'm curious, who has been your greatest influence on your leadership or your philosophy around how you think about the law?
You see, President Mwewa was an ardent believer in the rule of law and democracy. And I think I recall in the 80s, those of our friends who were there, or our parents, we recall that he had a famous title called Ichigumba, meaning because of his litigation in public interest, his sake, he won a couple of cases in public interest or siding with the opposition, treasonous cases. And I think he was just a litigant or a person who did litigation for the sake of the people. And I think he gained his famous name from there. And I think from there, I think that is where I drew my greatest inspiration, because he was actually an ardent believer in the rule of law and democracy. And when you look at his track record, I think we also have other people with legal excellence who are still actually there, the likes of John Sangwa, State Counsel, Musa Mwenye, State Counsel. All those people are people that continue to inspire me as a person who's upcoming, that, the law is initially about always standing for what is right and not to compromise and lose your integrity because of you're trying to benefit something at the end of the day. Exactly. So President Mwewa is actually my inspiration. And I think even with regards to leadership, I think I loved his leadership approach to things, as well as the late 60th Republican President of Zambia, who I feel had a very good leadership approach when it comes to dealing with individuals, as well as the law itself, when you hear him speak about it.
Sure. Thank you very much. I think so you use the term rule of law. People often hear that term but they don't really understand what it really means. And if you're a layman, if you're someone, you're a lawyer, or if you pay attention, what rule of law is. The institutional, sort of theoretical. But what does that mean for everyday Zambian? How can you condense that into a word, or how can everyday Zambians interpret that phrase, rule of law?
Okay, so when we were talking about the rule of law initially, when we were young, I think in layman's language, they always taught us that the rule of law is actually something where we are saying no single man, regardless of their status, is above the law. Everybody is subject to it. And if they commit an offense similar to a commoner, they must also be go through the same process of law. And if there is anybody that wants to disrupt that process of law where everybody is subject to a particular criminal process or civil process, that person is actually abrogating the laws of the land by wanting to be a person who wants to be above it, in other words. So when we are discussing the rule of law, we are saying Mr. Msonda, even though he is president of the Republic of Zambia, he must also undergo, or rather must always abide with the Constitution of Zambia and not abrogate it if he's president. And if he does so, he is subject to a process of impeachment, which must begin. So when we are talking about the rule of law, that's how it's supposed to be applied. If Mr. Simon has committed an offense, even if he's a public figure, and he commits a corrupt offense, even though he's a minister, he must go through the process of investigations and also go through a court process. And if he's found guilty, he must be sentenced. Same as an ordinary Zambian who has stolen a chicken from someone. And they must also go through the same process. And nobody should be above the law. That is, I think, in layman's language.
In practicality, that is harder than it seems. Certainly, we can I can use a reference here in America. We had a president who, in Trump, who, effectively, disregarded the law. And so that standard, which you've eloquently articulated, in theory is good. But, when we look in practice, we know that the rule of law hasn't really applied because, for example, again, I'll use the reference of, Donald Trump, someone who went through the court system, but he's president today. So in practicality, it's hard to, sort of advance. But I liked how you explained that really everybody should be on the same, playing field.
Exactly.
In your assessment, we talked about the rule of law. In your assessment, what do you consider Zambia's greatest constitutional or legal challenges today?
Okay, so with regards to the law, I think I will always say this. I think we have been going through what I call a protracted phase with regards to our constitutional reforms. Protracted, why am I saying so? Because we tend not to just have a document that we are all comfortable with. Since 1972, the precedent has been that there always has to be a constitutional amendment from 1972 to date, prior to an election, 1972, 1991, 1996, 2005, 2007, 2010, 2016, 2019, as well as 2025. We have had a protracted constitutional process because all the time we're not really satisfied with what we want. The 2016 Constitution coming into place, Act number 2 of 2016, was actually a constitution that we told ourselves the protracted process has come to an end because this constitution has included everything that we wanted. And I think it is just how we apply it which is important. And that's the reason why we had a constitutional court coming in, so that it could be there to interpret places where we can say, I think there's a lacuna here, or we have got lacuna. It was there so that it interprets and guides further. But I think we are not satisfied, and we're not people who are satisfied with what the law is providing for already. So that's the reason why we always have amendments throughout. So I think the greatest challenge is it has always been leadership. We need leaders that will say it is okay to repeal the entire law and put in things that are going to benefit the people themselves, because this is what they want. And not to say the constitution, this proposal is too good from the submissions, or the Constitutional Review Commission submissions or technical committee. No, this would disadvantage me, so let me remove this and that. And at the end of the day, we'll continue to have that protracted process. But if we're going to say, this is what Mr. Msonda wants, Mr. Mwewa, Mr. Mlenga, Mr. Shamakamba, at the end of the day, we'll have a document that is going to reflect the will of the people. And I love how the American Constitution hasn't been tampered with for over, 100 years.
250.
Exactly. It has remained the same and it has been applied. So what is so difficult about the African continent and Zambia at large to have a document as such, which will not be tampered with after 5 years? So I think we need to begin to say we are okay with this provision, and there's no problem at all. We can work with this provision so long as it reflects the will of the people, that we shouldn't be having amendments constantly after 5 years to put in things. Yes, thank you.
Why is a strong legal system? The Constitution is, at least in the American context, a living, breathing document. The Zambian Constitution has, been changed various times. You pointed out that the American Constitution has relatively stayed the same since 1776. There have been amendments, but why is a strong legal system, a strong legal framework, essential to national and economic development?
You see, I always love what one Justice Benjamin Cardozo, I think he was a judge there in the United States of America, if you've heard of him. Just confirm.
There's a high school named after him in Washington, D.C., Cardozo.
Exactly.
Yep.
I think I love how his realist theories come out, because he said the final cause of law must be for the betterment of society. And if you look at the law itself, the law is what is going to guarantee us of a good system of governance. It regulates it and prescribed for how it's supposed to flow. It's the law itself. So if we have got a strong legal system, a system that is going to put in place measures or have policies and regulations that are going to guarantee us economic stability. In what sense? If we have got the Minerals Development Act, the Minerals Development Act must be a document that must look into the welfare of the local people. If young people like you and myself want to venture into mining activities, we have got a responsibility as citizens to go and apply, follow the necessary procedures. Then we are awarded in the end after we go to the Minerals Regulation Authority. And we are given all the necessary empowerment mechanisms that we should go ahead and do whatsoever mining activities we want at the end. It's the law. But if a law is something that is disadvantaging the local citizens themselves and advantaging foreigners or another section of society other than the local people and the common man, then I don't think so if that kind of legal system aspires to see a country become economically stable at the end of the day. So if we have got systems in place that look into advantaging the citizenry, looking into ensuring that there are equal opportunities when it regards to trade and policy for the people, then we have a strong legal system, of course, that in the words of Justice Cardozo, which look into the welfare of society and a developed one.
I really appreciate that explanation. So as we transition, because when I get the sense that you exhibit such leadership and such maturity at such a young age. Obviously, I don't want to ask the question that's on everybody's mind, but I think I'll ask that question. Are you pursuing a career in elected politics soon?
Well, I think that is an issue which would need further deep reflection. And with regards to our political landscape at the moment, I think I don't really like how we do politics in Zambia
Mm,
because
touch on that.
it
Can
is
you,
basically
expand a little bit on that?
okay. It is basically founded on spite for each other and hatred. You see, I would love to see how the American people do their politics, of course, founded on ideas. And if you want
not,
to
not,
play,
not. I think it's relatively the same.
well, let me first elaborate more on why I'm saying so. You find yourself in a particular situation where, President Mwanawasa once said that I have not come here to play games of deceit and plundering. But now the plundering and the deceit is something that needs somebody who is very resilient. And, in Africa, for you to survive as a politician, most especially if you're a person who actually hits the nail on the head more, it takes great resilience and strength. Now, with regards to aspirations, I think at the moment, I think that we need further contemplation and deep reflection, but it is really something that I aspire to pursue. But for what reasons? I want to go and render my services to the people and bring on the table what I can as an individual. And whosoever that has the same attitude or mindset, of course, that I have or belief, ideology, is somebody who I'm very willing to serve under and be led by. But I think at the moment, when we look at how we do our politics in the country, in the American system, I'll tell you, I'll see President Obama giving speeches. And, he's talking about what he wants to do. And he comes up with a slogan, yes, we can. I don't recall seeing him ever being incarcerated or taken to prison for questioning. Or I have never ever seen him being blocked from holding a campaign rally, founded on the aspect that he needs to apply for a permit, and if he's not given, then he can't hold a meeting. So there are so many things in African politics that will actually discourage you from pursuing this path. But I think the only way we can have positive changes around is when you yourself, who has got a different way in which you want things to be done, to go and pursue and tell people, guys, we can do better. And this is what. So I'm really happy about how the political landscape in the country has changed so far. I must appreciate our current president because he is a person who has actually demonstrated the highest orders of, he has listened to the core by the people where they are saying, we don't want cadarism. And what we want is to see a positive. And we haven't seen people causing violence around anywhere else. We have seen so many positive changes.
We can hear you. I guess that's what happens when the conversation is rich. You have technical issues. The reason why I asked that question was not just from the air that Mr. Mwewa sort of exhibits. You can tell that this is someone who's deeply committed to the ideals of public service and to the law. He had posted a Facebook post, I believe, about a month ago, where he was commenting on, I think he had met an official, I believe, with the British government, and he had written about political aspirations and political ideals, and pursuing a career, potential career in politics. And that's why I asked that question. I thought his answer was particularly um, ingenious. I thought it was particularly interesting because he said, "While I am thinking about pursuing a career in politics, I want to be in a place of deep reflection." And I think that's important for a lot of young people who watch this. Of course, if you've been watching our show for, I think it's been almost a year, you've noticed that a lot of the young people who come on are, either work in the nonprofit space, are leaders in, their own community. A lot of these guys who we've had the opportunity to, feature are young people who have some level of political aspiration. And what he said was very, I think, key. For young people who are already on this pathway, you have Mr. Mwewa, who is president of the Legal Scholars Guild, which is a network of Zambian law students across the universities, particularly in Lusaka, but they have affiliates across the different provinces, which I was able to be featured on. They have specials every Sunday, so if you will follow their Facebook page, Zambia Legal Scholars Guild, they feature political officials, legal officials, and this is put up by young people. And so for young people who want to pursue a career in public service, you have to have it for the right reason. And I think he explained that very well. We're going to go to a commercial break, and we will, he is back.
Yes, sorry, apologies for that. There was a technical fault.
No problem, no problem. That's what happens when the conversation is good.
Yes. So I don't know if I can proceed. What was I saying?
Please finish. Please finish.
I just wanted to appreciate the president because I haven't heard of any things with regards to violence. In the past, we would see presidential candidates being, beaten just within Cairo Road, to the extent that they went to the hospital unconscious, and among many other things. So we are seeing so many positive changes, but now we want to see a society where there is fairness, with regards to elections. We're having elections being hosted, and we want to see some levels of fairness. We want to see levels of where you are free to engage the community and all those kinds of stuff. So with the aspirations, I have aspirations to join the game. And I think when the right time comes, you will see me announcing my official journey beginning, because all of us who are in student politics, we all venture and transition to politician at the end. So the aspiration is there. And I'll select somebody who I think should be my mentor so that the journey may begin.
Let me say, I like what you said over there. All of us who are in student politics eventually venture out into politics. I have had the opportunity, like you, to serve in student politics at my own school, and so I understand your contention. A lot of us do venture out into politics, but what you said before we had technical difficulties is important. And I said that while you were away. I said what you had said about young people pursuing a career in politics. You said you have the aspirations, because I remember you posted a write-up on Facebook talking about it. But you said that even though you have the ambition, even though you have the aspiration, you're still going to engage with reflection. Is this really the right path for me? And I thought that was very important, because a lot of us who have political aspirations, we don't really, think about it. As you said, you talked about how you wanted to go to Cavendish, but God's will not prevented you, but God's will led you down a different direction. A lot of us don't commit.
Humble beginnings. And,
exactly.
With regards to, I had asked a former honorable minister in the government of Zambia, and I told them, if for a person as young as myself would want to pursue politics, what advice would you give me? And the person told me, I won't disclose the name. Politics is a personal decision. You fail alone and you succeed alone. So if I give you an advice and say go and pursue and yet you're chancing and you fail at the end, you might say it was me. So it is something that calls for a deep reflection on your own, because whatsoever that comes next, it will be you to take the fall, every responsibility at the end. So you need to ask yourself, am I chancing? Or
Yeah.
rather, it's a calling which has
And
come.
that leads to my next question is why do you think many talented young people such as yourself, the people you've worked with, the people you've encountered, why do many talented young people hesitate to pursue careers in public service?
Okay, so perhaps with regards to that question, many have actually failed because of issues with regards to frustration. Already, I've mentioned here that being a politician in Zambia needs great resilience, because immediately when you begin to stand for the truth and speak truth to power, uh, you are actually tempting the government. And maybe the president might be okay and be tolerant, but there might be somebody just within that system who finds you to be very irritating to the extent that they might want to utilize some means to silence you. So they fear to pursue things like politics because of the frustrations that are within, because they fear I might get beaten, I might get jailed, I might lose my resources, or I'll be finished and blacklisted everywhere where I go, and I can't access uh, anything with regards to what the public has to offer. Others feel, I think it's a waste of resources and time, because why should I go and pursue such things if I can just wait and get a job where I will be employed and begin to work there and then. And, there are so many reasons around which we can talk about. Exactly.
Wonderful. Let me just say, we're both in noisy places, so I appreciate your patience, and I appreciate the way in which you've conducted yourself. I'm in one, you're in one, but we've still been able to conduct this conversation. So I'm very very appreciative. It's clear that the young people want to join the conversation too. Let me just say this as a preface. I have a list of questions. We won't get through all of them, so I just want to state this at the beginning that we're going to have you come back. I want to have you come back so we can sort of finish this conversation, because I have a lot of questions that I won't be able to get through. So I'm going to make sure that you come back so we can really sort of delve into these issues. But my next question is, and we're sort of still going along, we're still talking about sort of youth, public service, is you obviously are the president of the Legal Scholars Guild. So sort of talk about how you got involved in that and the purpose behind that endeavor. I want to thank you. I was able to join you guys about a month ago. So I'm very, very grateful for that opportunity. And so just talk about that network which you've cultivated and how you guys have been able to grow, because you've had some heavy hitters on the show.
Yeah, and um, after student leadership at my institution, I must say I don't love to pride myself. I don't mean to do so. Um, we had quite a number of great initiatives. We partnered with Lions Club. We partnered with various people just to make things a success when I was in leadership. I've spoken about how LAS had recognized our efforts at very first participation, and we came back with an award. So everybody was talking about our institution because I was in leadership and I was in charge. Now, when my leadership came to an end, I thought that I would not be Legal Scholars Guild Zambia president, because of the bureaucracy. Like I mentioned earlier, I found myself at an institution where I did not ever imagine I would be, but I think God wanted me to be there for a reason. And it was there where he brought out all these things I've spoken about, where we were new in the game, but yet we made a name and we are honored with very great awards. I must say. So when I was actually paying for my nominations under the Legal Scholars Guild, I thought I would not be considered because of the institution where I came from. Because when you look at records, people came from the University of Zambia, others came from the University of Lusaka, and they've been exchanging ever since. And I must make mention that I'm the first ever president to come from an institution which is in infancy stage. That yet I was rendered an opportunity and say, okay, let him go ahead and try his shot. So I made sure after I was rendered that opportunity that I must serve with the highest order of integrity and contribute to the growth of this body in line with my vision. And I said I'll work in line with Vision 365, which outlined some of the things I wanted to do and to market this body. So we launched our very first national strategic plan, so that it should be a blueprint where we should not deviate from our aspirations as a body, that when we have new leaders, they will actually work with that plan and of course bring in more of their ideas on board. Then I told myself we also need to begin to promote patriotism and national unity. And that is how we began the program Youth and Democracy on Sunday. And the aspiration has been to feature great people, of course, like yourself, who also came in. Former cabinet ministers are featured there. Former last presidents are featured there. Great motivational speakers, government officials such as Assistant Director Education. We had the former Attorney General of the Republic of Zambia, Mr. Musa Mwewa, who also featured. And, when we are bringing all these people on board, as well as young people who are inspiring others, the likes of Blessings Banda, Christopher Jambila, we have got George Mbewe, and as well as Taonga Shindano, and people get to follow. So we are trying to sell the Legal Scholars Guild and say this body is there to actually contribute to more. And I've also facilitated for the appearance of some of my executive members on KBN television, where they go and contribute to substantive law and discuss issues on new reforms in law. Chapter 1 Foundation has been a partner, and it has rendered us quite a number of opportunities, of course, where we have been able to talk about quite a number of issues with regards to the law. We have been given an opportunity to be on radio, Let the People Talk show, where I was actually interviewed by Ambassador Frank Mtuwila, and I joined the Executive Director Josiah Kalala, among other very great opportunities. We have engaged the young people also on the Copper Belt and Lusaka, as well as in Central Province. So we have quite a number of things that we intend to work on. And I think in the few months I'm left with to be president, I must leave behind a legacy where even the next person that will come will have to continue from where I have left.
Excellent. I, again, was privileged to be on. It's clear that you built an apparatus, and I like what you said, that it's about passing the baton to the next person. And so I'm very grateful once again for that opportunity. It builds a network of young people who are interested, who are passionate about building careers in public service. And you guys, again, have played, pivotal role. You have had very remarkable figures in the legal community and in the government sector who have joined. My next question is, and we're going to sort of still be in that sort of youth leadership sphere, is public service is often viewed as less attractive than the private sector. How can Zambia inspire more young professionals such as yourself who are really leading the way? But how can the folks that you work with, that you network with, how can they inspire more young people to, opt for a life of service, pursuing careers in the law or pursuing careers in politics?
Do you mind maybe repeating the question?
Sure. The question is, how can Zambia inspire more young people to pursue careers in public service? Public service is less attractive than the private sector. Private sector pays more, public service pays less. How can more young people be engaged in a life of service such as yourself?
Okay, so with regards to issues with public service, we must first always educate the people on what it means to serve the public. It must be a desire. It must be a calling or an aspiration to want to see the welfare of people being put first than anything. Then when people begin to recognize the fact that public service is, of course, an important tool, of course, anywhere else, the people themselves must be individuals, of course, that will be inspired and motivated by the things that they see. If the public service is around there for the welfare of society, where you look after the widows, you look after the orphans, those that are in need, with regards to social cash transfer, and many other things, then people will begin to see the critical importance of why it is important to serve the public, of course. But how are you going to inspire these people to come to public service? It's just by the things that happen in public service. What opportunities are there? How is public service demonstrated, of course? And I think how do we intend to do things in a way where it will interest the youth to come into the process? I think maybe we should take a break, then we come back.
Sure, let's take a break and then we'll come back and we'll finish up our conversation.
All right.
Ready to take your nursing career to the next level? At Global Nurse Pathways, we're here to make your dream of working in the U.S. healthcare system a reality. From expert NCLEX exam preparations to personalized consulting and relocation support. Led by the incredible Dr. Alice Nalondo, who holds a Doctor of Nursing practice and is certified as a family nurse practitioner and a psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner. Our team delivers top-notch training to help you answer the NCLEX exam. Once you pass your NCLEX exam, we will connect you with the US-based recruiting agencies, setting you on the path to an amazing career in healthcare. Ready to get started? We're just a call or a message away. Call or WhatsApp us now at +1 346 328 1110 for the US or +260 961 875 081 for Zambia, or email info@embehavioral.com. Let's make your dreams come true together. Global Nurse Pathways, transforming careers, changing lives.
As I aforementioned, I just want to reiterate this to our audience, and had a whole lot of questions that I won't be able to get through. So I look forward to having you on the show again, so we can sort of finish our conversation. But again, I'm glad that you were able to join us again. To our audience, I know there's been a lot of noise around. Both of us are in sort of environments that are beyond our control. So we thank you for your patience with the both of us. We hope that has not inhibited our conversation. As we begin to wind up our conversation again, I look forward to having you on again soon, hopefully before the end of the year, so we can sort of finish up this conversation. But as we wind down, I want to ask you just a couple of questions. What role, we're in an election period right now. Elections are in, I believe, less than 100 days. What role do young lawyers, youth advocates like you, what role do you guys play in defending constitutional democracy? It goes back to what you were saying in the beginning about rule of law. everybody on the same playing field, the Constitution, and you had said that, Zambian Constitution has been changed. What role do young lawyers have in defending this constitutional gift called democracy?
Well, I think I want to begin like this. Recently, I was given an opportunity to feature on Millennium Radio, where we were discussing the importance of voting
I
as well
watched
as
it.
the responses. I would see so many people, of course. There's also one who is actually a government official telling me how was the campaign going, asking me a question like that. And I would respond also in the same way and say, okay, the campaign is going well, as you can see on media. The responses or the reactions I've gotten, thoughts that I'm playing politics and I'm being used as a tool for someone to disadvantage the government, which is not true, and such assertions are false. Now, our role as lawyers, of course, it all stems from what we learn in legal process and constitutional law. It is our critical responsibility to be there to engage the citizenry in the importance of civic duty, among many other things that are important. So lawyers are not people you should view as politicians. They are only politicians if they declare they are. So I was given an opportunity to go and discuss the importance of voting, and unfortunately the reaction was that I was doing politics, and I received some reactions even from influential people who actually said, are you sure you're not a politician? And I said, no, I'm not backing anyone at all. And but I was actually performing my duty as a responsible activist and citizen. I went to educate the public on the importance of voting. And if they stay home and not vote, there are people who vote for their candidate of their choice. There are people who still vote for somebody who they don't want. And if they decide to go the path of the pathway of apathy, somebody else is going to do so. So it is our critical responsibility to educate the public on the importance of voting, to educate the public on the importance of scrutinizing manifestos and listening to the messages of the people. We have woken up to a conversation which has drawn so many mixed reactions here in Zambia, the issue of strategic reserves, or rather foreign reserves, which is currently happening in Zambia, where we are talking about $6.5 billion in the central bank as reserves. And there was an opposition leader, of course, that said we cannot be having reserves, which is $6.5 billion, while the citizenries are suffering and wallowing in poverty. And many people here have said, how can he talk about reserves in such a manner if they're important for economic stability and the future? So I think that's where we are. And I think this is where young people come in and begin to educate the public, maybe on the importance of reserves, and also to try and also clarify what the person was meaning when they made that statement. So myself, I've decided to restrict myself from commenting on the matter, and I've decided to keep quiet, and I'm not going to give my view.
I think it was a very wise person who said that sometimes it's just best to keep quiet.
Exactly.
So clearly you've taken that wise person's wisdom.
Well, so in perhaps if it's to respond, reserves are important. 6.5 billion is important. And the concern also of the opposition person, while as people suffer, we have got so much also, was a concern that was just okay as well. So both sides are in order. But I think now how to digest it and bring it out is where I'm having an issue. So I'd rather keep quiet.
That is commendable. As we wind down, I want to ask you just a very basic question. This might be a hard question, but I think given the optimism that you've projected, I don't think so. What gives you the greatest hope for our future? As a collective, I'm thinking about in America, we're observing 250 years in about 2 weeks, and the mood, at least here in the country, is it depends on where you're at. It's been very mixed because we're sort of in a tension. given the current leadership of our country. But young people, us young folks, have sort of are often viewed as the hope. So as someone who is young, someone who you are young, you work with young people, you sort of you I'm sure in many rooms you are sort of the resident young person that they go to, the elder generation. They say, hey, let's ask Simon, what gives you the greatest hope for the future of Zambia? What is it that sustains you? Even, you talked about, the folks are, there's cost of living issues, we're in an election season, and you talked about how, some folks are hesitant toward pursuing careers in public service. There's a lot of contentions going around in Zambia and the world. What is it that undergirds you as someone who is serving the people? What gives you hope? What sustains you?
Well, you see, I have also mentioned about the importance of endorsing a manifesto anchored on economic-driven innovation. I have also, I remember having a conversation with a man who I met who happens to live in the UK, and they were only on the Copperbelt province for business purposes. And we were on the same bus from Lusaka to Kitwe. Actually, I was going for a student engagement with regards to legal reforms. I think it was posted on my platform. And he told me, Sunny, do you know that in the recent 4 hours, we have been traveling, or in the past 4 hours, the actual 4 hours we've been traveling, do you know that about 4 planes have moved all the way from Lusaka to Copperbelt, going and coming back, and they've made so much money? I was like, yes. And the funny part is that an electric train would have moved 3-4 trips and going back, and we're still moving. And I told myself, we also have vast mineral resources under ourselves. We have got gold, and recently we had what we term as a geological survey. So we know what we have underneath ourselves as a country. And when we see foreign investors crying for minerals in exchange for certain things, it really tells us that we are a country which is endowed with a lot of wealth. But how we would be able to utilize it is where the question stands. So what gives me the greatest hope about our country's development is that all we need is just to have a resolve and sit down and say, guys, where are we going as a country? What are we supposed to do? Should our citizens continue to move for 4 hours, 5 hours, while our railway systems are just there? Why can't we rehabilitate or revamp the system that we can have at least electric trains that will ease travel time? We don't need to say cargoes will move by trains, because we'll see politics there say, how can you tamper with my business with such a reform? I can't allow it because I'm in 2 tracks. How can you tamper? But we need to begin to innovate. And I think recently I saw a report on social media where the American government was giving us $1.4 million for the rehabilitation of our railway system.
Yep.
I think it is my desire so to see electric trains start making their way in the country. Exactly. It is my desire so to also see, where I'm actually coming up with a policy directive on the SADC infrastructure master plan for 2012. I've decided to launch what we are to come up with a write-up on what we can term as the SADC Regional Integration Summit, Swiss summit, where we will see SADC heads of state come to sit. I think it's a proposal which I'm tabling, and I'll submit it to the president, whatsoever that it will be, or the current one, that should see to it to bring the people together, that we should work on a railway corridor for SADC, as well as a road infrastructure trunk, of course, or a road project, which can be termed as key routes, at least 600, where, it should be a collective responsibility to look into infrastructure development for key routes so that there is easier movement of goods and services at the end of the day. So this country is blessed. And what gives me hope is what we possess. But what we just need is just to have a resolve with ourselves and say, guys, let's fight poverty, and we make things better, utilizing what we have.
Let me just say, a train is very, I think, just smart public policy in general. In the Northeast, if you were to come to America, Washington, D.C. to about Boston, so that's all the major cities on the eastern seaboard, we have, what you were saying, electric trains. So you can get from D.C. to New York in under 3 hours. It shouldn't take you 6 hours to get from Lusaka to Ndola. I know those bus rides there, they're very
Exactly.
cumbersome. So what you said,
I get tired, honestly speaking.
you
Let's
you
can have a
you
reform.
do. You get
When
tired.
you look at countries like Tanzania, they are now even traversing, or rather transitioning into having electric trains being used for cargo movements. So I think it can even be a good thing for revenue. Even with regards to aquariums, I've only seen them on television and seen them on photos. But why should it be very difficult for us to have such a thing in Zambia? It could be a good investment as well. See?
It is a very good investment. My final question is very simple. Politics, law, or public service, which offers the greatest opportunity to change Zambia? I know they can be used interchangeably, but which one offers the greatest pathway toward change? Or do all of them offer the greatest pathway toward change?
Okay, so I'll be very brief on that in my response. I went to ask then acting British High Commissioner Sam Waldock, and I asked him a question: how can I contribute to national development as a young person?
Yes, that's where I saw your post. Yep.
He responded and said, join politics. That's it. He didn't even speak any further words. We need political power to make laws that will bring about national development. Law and politics cannot be divided. They are practically the same. It is impossible for you to say they are different. So it's either you join it or you stay away at the end of the day.
Thank you very much, Mr. Simon C. Mwewa, my brother. Thank you very much. As I said to you, we're going to have you back.
All right. Thank you so much for having me.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Okay.
Well, folks, that was our show for today. I thought it was great. Mr. Mwewa is I think it's fair to characterize him as an intellectual heavyweight at such an early age. This is someone who I believe is going to change the face of our country and our continent. This is obviously someone who is driven, who is ambitious, and who has a desire to help people. I think you saw it throughout our conversation. This is someone who's going to help people. This is someone who's going to change lives. And this is why we have conversations with Muhambi. Thank you very much, everybody. We will see you again next time. Pastor Nathan will be back in the seat. We're going to have Mr. Mwewa back another time. And he said something about party manifestos. And let's see what we're going to do with that. So we have a lot planned over the next few months. And once again, thanks to Pastor Nathan for this opportunity. And thanks to all of you who view, because you guys are really the true heroes. Thank you very much, everybody. And we'll see you next time.
Zambia Blog Talk Radio.